Hey, it's JR. Did you know that it's very important to have the buyer see your house before they make an offer, and especially before you accept their offer? There are rare instances where they may send a personal representative, somebody from their family. They've done this before, where they're living out of state or out of the country, but they trust that person, and you know there's that relationship there where that family member or whoever can make a decision for them on whether or not they're going to like a property. But those are very rare instances, and for the most part you're going to want the buyer to see the property in person before they make an offer, and definitely before you accept the offer. And there's a couple of reasons. One is connection. Once the buyer gets into the property, they see it, they love it, they want to have it, and they go under contract, and then maybe there's going to be an issue with the inspection. If there's a minor issue, it's not going to be that big of a deal for somebody who loves the property and wants it. They're going to want to move forward with it. But if they've not seen the property, they don't have that same connection, and it's easier for them to just say, you know what, forget it, I didn't realize, it was going to have this type of problem. And it might have been something that they saw when they were walking through and they decided not to make an offer in the first place. And you would much rather have that, where a buyer sees the property in person and doesn't make an offer, and you don't get under contract, especially if it's going to fall apart after the inspection or something like that. And that's kind of like what this is about down here. Value or perceived value. When somebody sees it in person, a good house is going to, it's going to show well. They're going to be inside and they're going to say, hey, I can see the value in this house. But it's going to be harder for them there if they haven't seen the house in person. So if you have an appraisal issue later down the road and they say, well, no, the appraiser says it's worth this. If they've been in it and they can see that value themselves, sometimes they may come to the table with a little bit more money to bridge that gap on a low appraisal if you have that problem. And then the inspection. If somebody has not seen a house in person and then an inspection report comes back and it's got an item on there that may be a little difficult to explain what was going on, without the person having seen the house and kind of the layout of where things were and all of that, it may be a little more difficult for them to comprehend that and just say, you know what, never mind, I don't want to have to deal with that. But all of that could have been avoided had the person seen the property in person first, and then made the offer, and then you come to an agreement. So whenever possible, don't accept an offer from a buyer who has not personally been in the property themselves. And actually, there are a couple of foreclosure managers, when they're selling a property, one of the questions they ask is, has the buyer seen the property in person? Because they know that, these things, they know that if the buyer hasn't seen it in person, then the connection's not as strong, and it's more likely to fall apart during an inspection or an appraisal or something like that. So the bottom line is, try to get the buyer in there. If they don't like the house and they don't make an offer, that's a lot better than them making an offer from afar, you get under contract, and then they cancel it later down the road and you've lost time on the market. So if that makes sense or not, you can put in the comments down here any questions that you have. And if you also want to know why I'm holding the marker and I didn't write on the board, you could also ask that too. All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks.